I've been trying to start a travel channel for a couple of months. The kind of videos where people go somewhere unusual and just document the experience. Stuff like riding the longest train route in the country, or staying in the cheapest hotel in the city for 24 hours. That kind of thing. I only had two videos up at the time. One about spending a night in this tiny capsule hotel. Another where I took a 12-hour bus ride just to see how the experience would be. Neither video blew up or anything, but I actually enjoyed making them. A couple of weeks later, I ended up finding this weird Reddit thread about places in the country that barely had any photos or videos online. These are not abandoned places, but actual towns. Most of the thread were just people joking around, but one place kept getting mentioned over and over. A small town in the middle of nowhere. And for some reason, almost nobody had footage of it online. There were maybe 2 or 3 pictures in total, but no travel videos, no vlogs, no nothing. Which honestly sounded perfect for the channel like mine. So I packed my gear and drove out early in the morning. And when I got there, the place seemed completely normal. Quiet, small. Everybody kind of knew each other. I stopped at this little diner near the entrance of the town before filming anything. I was surprised. People there were way friendlier than I expected. The waitress kept joking about how outsiders always underestimate how cold the town gets at night. She even warned me not to trust the weather app because this place changes its mind every hour. There was this older guy sitting near the counter who started recommending places I should visit. He told me the river behind the town was probably nicest looking place here. Then spent like 5 minutes telling about a fish he caught there one time. Another woman overheard us talking and immediately jumped in, just to argue that he didn't catch a fish that big. The banters, the laughter, and the community. It felt really nice. Like I've been part of this place in such a short time. Then I mentioned I was filming a video about the town. And the atmosphere changed almost immediately. Nobody yelled at me. Nobody told me to leave. It was just awkward. The waitress stopped smiling as much. The older guy just nodded and looked down at his coffee. The woman near the counter suddenly remembered she had somewhere to be. At first, I thought maybe they just didn't like outsiders filming there, which I understood completely. So I told them I wasn't going to show the camera in people's faces or anything. The waitress just said, "That's probably for the best." After that, the conversations never really felt normal again. People still talk to me sometimes, but reserved, shorter. Like everybody was trying not to say too much. Whenever I took out my camera to record something, people nearby would just quietly move away. They weren't running away or panicking, just deliberately stepping out, like they've done this before. And the weirdest part was, nobody ever asked me to stop filming. Not once. I remember filming near the town hall around sunset. It's a big brick building. Looked older than everything else around it. There was this woman outside, tending to a small patch of flowers, when I walked up. I asked her if the building was still being used for something. She told me for town meetings mostly. Pretty normal conversation. Then I mentioned how I was getting footage for my channel. She got up and started to walk away. She glanced back at me, and I noticed her eyes move to check what's behind me. Not the camera. Something passed me. Then she quietly asked, "How long are you staying here?" I told her probably just until dark, and that seemed to relax her a little. Then she said, "That's good." I remember asking her what that meant, but she just shook her head and went back to tending to the flowers. At that point, I still thought the town was just a little uncomfortable about being filmed, which was fair. Some people love their privacy, and I honestly get it. I kept filming for another hour or so before heading back home. Nothing bad happened. I wasn't threatened, nobody followed me. The whole drive home, I kept thinking how uncomfortable everyone seemed. Later that night, I started going through the footage, and I noticed something weird almost immediately. Every time I filmed around people, they kept glancing somewhere behind me. I replayed the clip after clip, trying to figure out what they were looking at. I couldn't find anything, so I just ruled it off as coincidence. Then I noticed a woman tending to the flowers. Right after asking how long I planned on staying, her eye shifted behind me again. Made me rethink all the interaction I had in town. It started when I mentioned filming. Like they knew something I don't. I barely slept that night, but things were about to get worse. I was at a grocery store after work when it happened. I was talking to the cashier. A normal conversation. Then, in the middle of handing my receipt, her expression changed. Her eyes were looking behind me for just a second. Then she got quiet. Wouldn't really look directly at me anymore. The exact same way people in that town acted. My stomach dropped immediately because I recognized that look. It started happening more. Coworkers cutting conversation short. People glancing behind me before walking away. A guy at a gas station staring at me like there was something behind me. There was never anything there. At least, nothing I could see. I got home late from work and went into the bathroom to wash my face. I remember looking up into the mirror and freezing immediately. There was something behind me. It, it was it was clinging on my back. Its arms were wrapped around my shoulders, hands dangling over my chest. Its face was right beside mine, completely expressionless. I looked over my shoulder. Nothing there. The bathroom was empty. But when I looked back into the mirror, it was still there, looking at me, completely still. Its face right beside mine, smiling. And I realized it was smiling the same way the people in that town did. If you're enjoying the story, subscribing really helps the channel. Anyway, let's keep going. I've always liked bugs, ever since I was a kid. While other kids were into sports or cards, I was outside flipping rocks over, looking for beetles. A couple of years ago, I got back into the hobby after finding collectors and keepers online. And honestly, it became the first thing I'd been excited about in a really, really long time. Then one night, I saw a post about a rare beetle that had supposedly been spotted a few states away from me. There were no pictures, no proof it even existed, just the location somewhere off an old highway near a stretch of a forest. Most people in the comments were calling it fake, but I don't know. Something about it got me really excited. I wasn't planning to take it or anything. I just wanted to find one, take pictures, actually see it for myself, and maybe share it with the community. So I asked my friend if he wanted to come with me for the drive. He thought the whole thing was stupid, but he came anyway. The drive took most of the day. We were talking about random stuff when my friend noticed a car behind us, a black van. At first, we didn't think much of it, but after an hour, it was still there, following us. Eventually, we pulled into a gas station. The van pulled in too. That was odd. When we got back to the road, it followed us again. So we tested it. We took a wrong turn on purpose. The van followed us down that road too. Then we got back onto the highway. It was still there. The strange part was they never got close to us. Never honked, never flashed their lights. It just stayed behind us, watching. Eventually, we reached the area from the Reddit post. There wasn't much out there, just the forest, some dirt roads, old signs near the highway. And the second we turned into the road leading into the woods, the van stopped following us. It just sat there near the entrance and we kept driving. At that time, I remember feeling relieved. We parked near this old trail and started hiking in. The place was beautiful. Cool breeze, huge trees covering most of the trail. For a while, the trip actually felt worth it. Then, after maybe an hour or two, we found a beetle. And I remember getting genuinely excited. My friend was laughing at me while I took pictures of it. That should have been the end of the trip. We should have left right after that. But we didn't. I wanted to explore a little more while we were there already. That's when we found a campsite. Or what was left of it. The tent had been ripped apart. Backpacks scattered everywhere. A flashlight laying in the dirt still turned on. And the fire pit was still warm. Whoever had been there hadn't left very long ago. My friend immediately wanted to go back after seeing that. I remember joking that maybe it was just a bear. Then we heard something nearby. Like something was circling us. We both stopped talking. The forest suddenly felt too quiet. No birds, no insects, nothing. Then we saw him. A man stumbling through the trees toward us, covered in mud, breathing heavily. At first I thought he was injured. Then he got closer. I've never seen someone look that terrified before. It wasn't panic. It was pure terror. He kept looking behind him while he was talking to us, asking where we parked, asking if we came through the North Road. We told him yes. Then he asked, "How many of you are there?" We told him two. And I swear to God, he looked relieved. Just for a second. "You need to leave before dark." My friend asked him what happened. The guy tried answering, but he couldn't stay focused. His mind kept drifting somewhere else. Then he suddenly grabbed my arm, hard enough to hurt, and said, "If it catches you right away, you're lucky." Those words stuck with me. What happened to this guy? What happened to the people he came with? Then we heard movement deeper in the trees behind him. Branches snapping. The guy froze instantly. Every bit of color disappeared from his face. Then we heard it. Like somebody grinding their teeth together somewhere in the dark. The guy immediately started backing away, just whispering, "No, no, no, no." Then something stepped between the trees. At first glance, I genuinely thought it was a person. Tall, standing completely still in the dark. It stepped forward slightly. And I realized its mouth looked odd. The entire flesh around his mouth looked torn. I could see his teeth even in the dark. The grinding sound never stopped. And then it moved. I have never seen something move that fast in my life. 1 second it was standing there. The next, the man screaming somewhere ahead of us. Then the screaming turned into this horrible choking sound. And then nothing. Absolute silence. My friend grabbed me and we started running. And while still trying to process what just happened, it came after us too. I could hear it moving beside us through the trees, keeping pace with us like it was nothing. Sometimes the grinding sounded so close it felt right beside me. Then suddenly farther away again. Like it was controlling how close it wanted us to feel it. At one point, I looked to my right while we were running. I saw it between the trees beside us, just standing still. Green eyes reflecting in the dark. Its mouth hanging slightly open, while those teeth slowly ground together. Then it disappeared behind the trees again. We finally saw the road ahead through the forest. The van is still there. Its headlights were on now. Two men were outside yelling at us to run faster. I realized they hadn't been following us because they wanted something. They were trying to stop us from coming here. Then the grinding sound suddenly stopped. Completely. Complete silence. Then my friend screamed. I turned just in time to see something dragging him back into the dark. I could still hear him screaming my name, somewhere deeper in the forest. Then the screaming suddenly cut off. One of the men grabbed me by my jacket and showed me toward the van. Nobody tried to go after my friend. Nobody even looked back. The driver floored it before the doors were even shut. I kept looking at the back window expecting to see my friend running after us. He never did. Nobody talked for the first 10 minutes. I couldn't stop shaking. One of them finally told me they've been trying to keep people away from that area for years. Most disappearances out there just get written off as hikers getting lost. Sometimes they find campsites, sometimes they find pieces of people. But most of the time, they find nothing at all. I asked him what that thing was. Nobody answered me at first. Then the driver finally said, "If it takes someone," he stopped suddenly. Something slammed underneath the van. The vehicle jerked violently sideways. Someone started screaming. The driver lost control. I remember headlights spinning across the trees. Then metal crushing against wood. Everything went black. When I opened my eyes again, the van was wrapped around the tree. My ears were ringing, blood running down my face. Then I heard it. Close. I looked through the shattered window, and I saw it dragging one of the bodies into the forest. Calmly. Just pulling it deeper into the trees. Then came back for another one. I tried crawling away, barely able to move. I made it behind a large rock, trying not to make a sound. Then the grinding suddenly stopped. And somewhere from behind me, have you ever wondered who cleans up after someone dies? Not the police. Not the paramedics. I mean, after everything's over. After the body's gone. After the news vans leave. After the family can't even look at that house anymore. That's an actual job. And about 4 months ago, it became mine. I used to work at a warehouse. 12-hour shifts. Terrible pay. You know the job. One night I saw a posting online for a biohazard remediation work. I didn't even know what that was. I read the entire post and it's crime scenes, unattended deaths, stuff like that. And surprisingly, it paid way more than I expected. The company handled all the certifications and training too. Most of it was just safety stuff. How to handle bloodborne pathogens, protective gear, chemical disposal. The actual cleaning part wasn't really the difficult thing. The difficult part was the smell. Nothing prepares you for that. You think you know what a dead body smells like because you watched the movie or you saw it on TV? You don't. Not even close. By the time this happened, I'd already done 3 jobs with the company. One self-inflicted case, one old guy who died alone in his apartment, and one kitchen incident that I still don't like thinking about. But all of those were pretty straightforward. A little sad, gross sometimes, but ultimately manageable. Then came the 4th house. It was a nicer neighborhood than I expected. Big house, 2 stories, home gym in the garage. The kind of place where you assume successful people live. Which made the smell worse somehow. Because the second we opened the front door, it hit us immediately. I smelled the composition before, but this was different. Like something had been rotting in heat for weeks. There were no words I know to actually describe it. I actually had to step back outside for a second just to stop myself from throwing up. Tess laughed at me for it. She'd been doing this for years. Mid 40s, maybe. Didn't scare easy. She told me everybody reacts like this for their first few times. Andrew was there too. Guy around my age. Quiet. Always looked tired. He barely talked unless he needed to. The weird part about the house was how clean everything looked at the first glance. No signs of struggle. Furniture was untouched. Then we found the body. Or parts of it. The torso was in the living room, one arm near the kitchen entrance, part of a leg beside the stairs, and there was blood. Yeah, but not nearly enough. That's what Tess noticed first. She kept saying, "This didn't happen here." Like the remains had been moved afterward. The man looked like he was maybe in his 40s. Big guy too, muscular. His head was missing. That made the whole thing worse. Tess explained that the police had already processed the scene earlier that day. The house had already been released. Apparently, the coroner transport was running behind, so the remains were still there waiting to be picked up. So we carefully moved everything closer together, near the living room so we could work without getting in our way. We placed it properly in a body bag. I figured we'd be out before dark. And boy, was I wrong. Cleaning jobs like that take forever, especially once blood gets into wood or carpet. Time disappears while you're working, and it got dark outside without me noticing. Tess eventually decided to split up to finish this faster. She took the garage, Andrew worked upstairs, I stayed downstairs near the kitchen and living room. And for a while, everything felt normal again. Just another cleanup. Then I noticed something weird. The body bag looked odd. Like it wasn't in the same place before. I remember standing there staring at it, trying to convince myself I was just tired. Andrew asking if Tess had said something. I told him no. He said he heard the sound from the garage. No words, just mumbling. We tried radioing Tess. Nothing. And then we heard it. A loud snapping sound from the garage. Then Tess screaming. I mean, screaming. Andrew and I ran immediately. And I swear to God, I almost slipped because there was blood running under the garage door. Fresh blood. We got the garage open and saw Tess on the floor. Or what was left of her. Her body was mangled. One arm torn off. Her jaw hanging open. Andrew immediately threw up beside me. I couldn't move. I genuinely couldn't process what I was looking at. Then Andrew grabbed my shoulders and started screaming at me to call 911. That snapped me out of it. I remember shaking so hard I almost dropped my phone. The operator answered. I tried explaining what happened, but I sounded insane even to myself. The woman kept asking if the attacker was inside the house. I don't know what to say. Because I didn't know what did that to Tess. The dispatcher told us officers were on the way and to stay inside somewhere safe. That's when I noticed the body bag in the living room was open. Empty. Andrew just stared at it for a second and whispered, "No." Like he already understood something I didn't. Then we heard movement upstairs. Heavy. Something dragging across the floor above us. Then another sound. Andrew started panicking immediately, saying we needed to leave now before whatever killed Tess came back, and I agreed. We ran for the front door, and Tess was standing there. I don't know how else to describe it. She was standing there. Her body looked twisted, one arm hanging loose, blood running down her clothes, and she was making this horrible screeching sound through what was left of her jaw. Andrew slammed the door shut immediately and backed away screaming. Then something stepped in the hallway behind Tess. The thing from the body bag stepped into the hallway. Its head was still missing. Andrew ran toward the kitchen. 1 second it was standing near the front door, and the next Andrew was on the floor screaming. I heard bones snapping, furniture slamming over. I ran upstairs. I didn't even think about it. I just ran. I locked myself inside one of the bedrooms and shoved the furniture against the door. Then I called 911 again. No signal. Nothing. That's when it really hit me. Why did I even take this job? Then I heard footsteps outside the bedroom door. Slow and heavy. I stared at the handle, trying not to breathe too loudly. Then everything went quiet. Complete silence. And for 1 second, I honestly thought maybe it moved on. Then the dresser suddenly slammed backward across the floor. Another hit. The wood cracked near the frame. Then another. And right before the door finally burst open, everything downstairs suddenly stopped. No footsteps. Nothing. I don't remember how long I stayed in that room after that. Could have been minutes. Could have been hours. But when the officers finally brought me downstairs, Tess and Andrew were gone. The front door was wide open. And the body bag in the living room was empty.